Hey everybody, and welcome to FYB's live French Open webcast. Will Hamilton alongside Adam Szymanski. We have obviously a ton to talk about today. Roger Federer goes down to Robin Soderling in the quarterfinals in 4 sets. We're going to get to that in a second. Before we get to that, I want to thank Championship Tennis Tours for sponsoring this webcast. If you're going to buy your tickets to tennis tournaments, please do it through them. And if you're going to the U.S. Open and you get tickets through them, you'll be able to hang out with us at one of the parties they're throwing up there. So thanks again to Championship Tennis Tours. If you guys are not in, please jump in. All you got to do is enter in some text, and you'll be prompted to create an account, and then you can win some cool free stuff we're going to give away later in this webcast, courtesy of tennisexpress.com. So thanks to them as well. And a final thanks goes out to Jim Hamilton, my dad, for picking me up this shirt at the French Open. He just got back last night, and he was nice enough to bring me back. I think Tsonga was wearing this thing. I'm not 100% sure.
But I could see Tsonga in. Yeah.
So I got the Tsonga shirt on, I think. But with that in mind, just as is always, if you have any questions regarding what we're talking about, some follow-up comments or whatever, please post them in the chat, and we will address them as we go. Now, let's get to the Fed match. I mean, this is a match.
Day, obviously.
I thought if you saw my here we got the stats over here. If you saw my Fed and Soderling, if you saw my preview, I called 4 sets. I just called the wrong player. It was of course 3-6, 6-3, 7-5, and 6-4. One of the things that really stood out, if you just look sort of at the base stat line, is that both players played well, in my opinion. Both served the same percentage. First serve, 64%. You had 12 to 14 aces for the two. Soderling had a number of double faults, 6. But then you get to this stat line here. You got unforced errors, 27 for Fed, 42 for Soderling, and then you got 40 winners here for Fed, 49 winners for Soderling. Now, my opinion here is that...
Scroll down a little bit, too, because there's another stat we want to talk about there down below. But, yeah, continue.
Which, well, let's get to that in a minute. Let's clip back.
Yeah, sure.
The thing that really stood out to me was just how big Soderling was playing. His strategy, to be honest, against Federer was pretty much the same strategy he used against Rafael Nadal last year, and that's just to grip it and rip it whenever he had a look. Doesn't matter if it was a great look. It just had to be a look of some sort. He swung for the fences, essentially, and just tried to hit as hard as he wanted to. And he basically said to himself, I'm going to go down swinging. I'm swinging for the fences. If I connect, I might have a shot. And if I don't connect, at least I tried.
That's reflected in the number of winners and the number of unforced errors from Soderling.
That was going to be, my point, is he had 49 winners, 42 unforced errors, but he was in control of most of these points. He was winning and losing points on his terms. Exactly. And Fed could never get his teeth into the match. And I said in the video I did last night, against Wawrinka, Federer's backhand seemed to be falling, not necessarily short, but it didn't seem like it was penetrating the court too much, and I thought that'd be an opportunity for Soderling to attack. And I thought actually Federer hit his backhand pretty well. He seemed to be getting better depth on it, and it was more effective, but that didn't matter really at all. I mean, Soderling just crushed anything he got a look at.
Yeah.
And the court was slow, so Soderling was able to stand up. Federer wasn't able to take away Soderling's time like he had, let's say, at Wimbledon or the U.S. Open or the French Open last year, where Soderling didn't have as much time to get set, get through his long swings, and take control of a lot of those points. So, the conditions certainly helped Soderling, but it was a masterful performance, not just on the ground strokes, the serves too. I mean, he was just blasting serves. His second serve average speed was 108 miles an hour.
Let's clip back here to the stat line so you can see those numbers. Soderling's first serve average speed, 209 kilometers an hour. That is 130 miles an hour average on his first serve. And he was coming up with a lot of serves that were close to 140 miles an hour.
Well, sure. The one
Yeah.
127 or 227 is his fastest first serve.
Yep.
The thing I found a little bit more interesting was the second serve. It was this is 108 miles an hour.
108 miles an hour.
And I think, if we go over to Fed, first serve speed was fine, 196. That's kind of average. That's going to be low 120s. And second serve, this is 99 miles an hour, which you would normally say to yourself, that's a good second serve, 99 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. No problem there. That was essentially just a powder puff for Soderling in this match. I mean, he was clocking those serves. And I think, if we look ahead, we're getting ahead of ourselves, and we can talk about this more in a minute, but if Soderling gets through Berdych and then is facing Rafa, if Soderling, this might be a bold statement, if Soderling is playing as well as he played in this match, he's going to win this tournament. That's what I think.
I think, I would caveat that with a couple things. Number one, Soderling has to repeat his performance against Berdych. He has to get through Berdych.
Well, that's right. If he gets through, he has to play as well as he has been. Right. But if he maintains this level,
maintains his current level,
he's going to win the tournament, I think. I think he'll beat Rafa.
The conditions were also very favorable for him today. And I think from now on, at least, the weather forecast in Paris is supposed to be a little bit less wet. So is that going to make it any easier or any harder for him to maintain that type of play when the conditions maybe are a little bit faster?
I think what you're going to get is the court might speed up, but I think that'll be offset to a degree by the fact that Rafa doesn't hit balls that penetrate the court nearly as effectively as a guy like Federer. And you had Soderling beat Rafa last year in conditions that were, to my knowledge, much more favorable, exactly, drier. So I think if the court is super slow, that heavily favors Soderling in the sense that he's going to have plenty of time to set up. Ball's going to be high in his strike zone. Going to be able to go to town on those balls. If it's a little bit quicker, I still think, given the fact that that Rafa doesn't hit quite as hard in terms of how the ball penetrates the court, that's going to help Soderling. If he was playing Federer in drier conditions, then I think that would be more of an issue. But I don't think it matters that much.
So I have a question for you about Federer, and then I have a question for you about Soderling.
Okay.
The question about Federer is, does Soderling's victory here over Federer, albeit at the French Open, and Del Potro's victory over Federer, is this starting to show that big, tall guys who take huge cuts on their forehand can pressure Federer?
Well, I think the short answer is yes, but I don't think it's just Federer. I think what it's sort of more indicative of is if you get a guy out there who is going for broke and he's making all the shots, exactly, then there's not too much you can do as the opponent other than replicate that strategy. If you're just keeping the ball and the guy is taking a huge cut and then it's a winner, doesn't matter what kind of game plan you have.
Right.
Like the guy's just on, he's dialed in. So you have a guy, it's an interesting sort of evolution on the clay, because you have a guy like Del Potro who did well last year, and obviously Soderling. And you would say normally
Del Potro's out this year.
Del Potro, sure, he's injured. But in the past, you'd say, well, you have a big guy who hits big, but he's not the best mover, and they get grinded down, certainly even, 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
And you would have, your classic, quote-unquote, clay court player who works the ball around, typically winning all those matches. Roddick's not doing any damage there, and neither are some of the other big hitters.
Sure.
But now you got a guy who is so powerful, like Soderling.
And who's willing to try to end points early on his own terms.
Or like Del Potro. And they're so physically strong in terms of their upper body that high balls are just perfect for him.
Right.
So it's almost as if the extra time that allows these guys to set up and take monster cuts is making clay more attractive than you would expect it to be.
Right.
At this point, Soderling is a better clay court player than he is a grass court player, which makes zero sense in a way. You can explain it. The ball stays lower on a grass court.
Right.
Soderling has less time to prepare. And Soderling's not the greatest mover. He can move well for a big guy, but on a grass court where the ball really gets through the court, then that sort of, it doesn't allow him to take these huge cuts. So it's been a kind of interesting evolution in terms of these big guys having a lot of success recently on on a clay court. So it's not just Federer. Although the way to beat Federer is to essentially hit him off the court.
Yeah.
You can't get in there and slice and dice with him because he'll take you apart. So yeah, shorthand. That short answer turned into a very long one. Was there a second?
My question about Soderling, I'm trying to remember here. How did I get off track? Okay. There's talk in tennis sometimes of people who are giant killers. Is Soderling a giant killer?
I mean, I think you have to say absolutely. Back-to-back years, he's beat the defending champion. He beat Rafa last year. He beat Federer this year.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the giant beating the giant.
I was going to say, it's sort of misleading in that, Soderling is currently ranked, number 7?
I believe he's 7,
And so, he is certainly a giant in his own game. But I think it's a huge achievement for him to beat both Nadal at the French and Federer at the French.
I agree 100%. It's he to call him a giant killer is absolutely accurate. He's beaten the 2 best clay court players of our generation, arguably the best clay court player ever.
And I think by Federer's own admission, Federer was playing extremely well this tournament.
Yeah,
and then Soderling just took him apart.
Yeah, Federer said he was playing well, and he said, he didn't think the conditions were ideal, but he said in his post-match, I wasn't incredibly disappointed because I played well, and Soderling just played better than I did.
Yeah.
So there's a question in the chat, I believe from FedEx, where in one of my previous videos I was talking about the drop shot and how Fed was going to work that in. And I had anticipated that because, again, Soderling is not the quickest guy, so a well-hit drop shot is going to be effective. Problem is Soderling hits so big, it's hard to control the ball on a drop shot. And if Soderling is pushing you back and you're not able to step in, trying to hit a drop shot from a couple feet behind the baseline is not a very good idea when the guy's hitting the ball big and your momentum isn't necessarily in the correct direction and the guy has good court positioning.
Yeah.
So the times when Federer is effective with that shot is when his opponent is a little bit further off the court, maybe further behind the baseline, and Federer has good court positioning. He's on the baseline, or maybe he's inside and he's winding up like he's going to hit a forehand. He has a little time to kind of disguise it and then switch his grip at the last minute and then slice it. So, you didn't really have an opportunity, too many opportunities for Fed to do that today, just because Soderling was bringing the, as Brad Gilbert would say, he's bringing the wood. So it was impressive.
So the other note is I want to say is we had 2 previous polls. I don't have a poll yet for today, but if you guys have an interesting question that you'd like me to poll the audience on, let me know. But 2 of our previous polls were in regards, I think, to this match. One of them was how many sets will the Fed Soderling go? The majority of people, 57, said that it would go. Actually, wait, I'm looking at the wrong poll here. Sorry. It was 50% of people thought it was going to go 4 sets. So everyone was correct there.
Yeah.
I think most people like you thought that Federer was going to take it.
Yeah,
It did go
Federer
4
was gonna
sets. And then the other poll was who was the biggest remaining threat in the tournament, and I think we were asking this during the 4th round.
Yeah, I think the poll question today should be pretty simple. Who do you think is going to win the French Open on the men's side?
Okay.
I think that
we'll do that poll in a minute. And so the biggest remaining threat, 57% of people thought that Soderling was going to be the biggest remaining threat, and the other larger number was Djokovic when he plays Nadal. That they think that could be a problem for Nadal. But
yeah, I think Djokovic certainly, if he gets through Almagro, which I expect him to do. Why don't we set that poll up? Because then I want to talk about some upcoming matches, but I want to bias the results. But I think Djokovic could give Rafa a match, assuming again Rafa gets through Almagro and Djokovic gets through Meltzer. But I think the one problem Djokovic is going to have, well, Djokovic has a couple problems. Should we, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves maybe, but the confidence issue. Djokovic is in the quarters, but he has not had a good spring season. His serve is a little buggy at the moment. The technique's not quite there. And Djokovic can handle Rafa's heavy topspin on his back, and he's got the 2-hander, so he can manage it, but he can't really attack it like some of these other guys. So I think if he's able to move the ball around the court, he certainly can give himself a chance, but he's going to have to play extremely well And I think the fact that he doesn't have that instant offense like some other guys is going to be a problem for him.
So we're going to put Djokovic, Nadal, Soderling, and Berdych as the 4 potential options. Am I missing a name in there that we think would have a pretty reasonable shot at this point?
I think that's good. I mean, we can take a quick look over at the draw, but I don't see. Yeah, I mean,
Jürgen Meltzer, Almagro. I don't.
No, I mean, I think we should expect. Yeah, I don't think either of those guys are going to get through.
We're going to start this poll up and see what you guys think. And
so it's right below.
Yeah, on some video players it's up at the top over here, and then in others it's down, at the very bottom below my name there. So just click on that. Let us know what you think. What else we got? Where were we?
Well, I want to, in a second, first of all, I'm going to pull up my email and figure out a prize we can give away in a couple minutes. But I want to talk about, I'm gonna get ahead of myself and talk about an upcoming match as soon as, or a potential matchup that I think would be interesting. I want to play off something I said earlier in the webcast, but I'm going to give everybody a couple, give everybody a minute to vote before I start riffing a little bit. I think today, why don't we give away a, let's give away a Fernando Gonzalez autograph card. Let's do that. We got Gonzo. In honor of big forehands like Robin Soderling, we'll give away a Gonzo gift card. So do we have those poll results?
Yeah, let's take a look at the poll results.
We got enough.
Here. Where was that? Okay, so we have.
Yeah, we got a good number of votes.
Wow, one person thinks Djokovic will take it. 58% of you think Nadal's got it locked up, and 37% think Soderling.
Yeah, 37 is changing a little bit. Yeah.
And 1 vote for Berdych. So I think it appears you guys think that we're headed for a Nadal-Soderling final.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I'm anticipating. Berdych has been playing well, but I just don't think, given how big Soderling is playing right now, Soderling's going to get into that semifinal and he's going to look across the net and he's going to see Berdych and he's going to be thinking, well, I already beat Federer this year, I beat Nadal last year.
Right.
The mental end is not going to be a problem. I think he's going to be super confident.
Yeah, and I think it bodes well for Soderling, even if he doesn't bring, I think he will have to bring a huge game if he plays Nadal in the final. But even if he doesn't, he at least knows that he has faced Nadal and beaten him at the French Open before. And this is not his first final. This is his second final now.
Yep. And he said in his press
conference, maybe we can expect him to play, a better final.
Yep.
I think Roger might have said something along those regards in his exit interview.
Okay. Yeah, let's clip over to the computer screen real first. I'm gonna tee up. So let's assume, again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but let's assume we get. This is my quick web search for how to convert kilometers to miles per hour.
Oh, you're doing it all wrong.
Yeah, maybe.
You need to learn how to Google.
But no, I did it on the Google. But anyway, this number here, 142 kilometers, is Nadal's second serve average speed in his last match, which equated to 88 miles an hour.
Yeah. Soderling is going to take that apart.
Exactly. Federer had about 12 more, 12 miles an hour more on that second serve. So if we go to the dry erase board, and let's just say, can you toss me that red marker that's over there somewhere? Yeah. Thanks. If we put Rafa down here, nice. I erased Soderling when I meant to erase Fed. All right, so I'll put Soderling up here. What's going to happen, first of all, like we said, that second serve, if Soderling's dialed in, he's going to be all over it, more so than he was against Federer. So he's going to be able, I think, Soderling, to get his teeth into a lot more of Rafa's service games right out of the gate. I mean, Federer basically stayed afloat in this match longer than maybe he should have because he was hitting big serves. There were a couple of games in there, Adam, that you and I were seeing where Fed would get down a break point and then he would paint the line with a serve.
Yeah.
And then, he would bail himself out. And Rafa simply doesn't have that ability. So I think Soderling's going to be able to pressure Rafa off, the very first ball. Now, the other thing I think is going to be a problem for Rafa is that he stands a little bit further behind the baseline, and his balls have a tendency sometimes to land a little bit short and in the middle of the court particularly when a guy guns the ball at him. Now, a guy like Federer, I think, handles pace better than Rafa does. If you blast a ball at Rafa's forehand in particular, the ball ends typically, or not typically, sometimes lands a little short and it sits up. You saw this in, against Del Potro last summer, where Del Potro beat Rafa in consecutive tournaments, obviously killed him at the U.S. Open, and Del Potro was just hitting big and pressuring Rafa. Rafa didn't have enough time to set up and hit comfortably. So if Soderling's hitting big and pressuring Rafa's ground strokes, I think Soderling is going to get a lot of opportunities to take huge cuts, more so than he was against Fed. And the other thing about Rafa, with his positioning back here and just his style of ball, heavy topspin, higher trajectory over the net, he's not as, as much of a shot maker in the sense that he's going to hit a lot of winners. It takes him maybe one or two balls to transition forward and transition onto offense, whereas a Fed is a guy who literally has that instant offense. He runs around the backhand, forehand, he's in control. So I think because of that, because Rafa takes a little bit longer to transition to offense, it's going to be harder for him to flip the script against Soderling, and that, of course, is going to give Soderling a lot of opportunities to take big cuts. Now, all of this is very, sort of hypothetical at this point. These guys haven't reached, neither one has reached the final yet. Rafa obviously has some advantages over Federer, particularly his ability to pull guys off the court, something Federer did in the first set, kind of got away from, to obviously his detriment. So if Rafa's able to angle balls real well, keep Soderling on the move, and particularly I think something that Federer did occasionally that was really effective, and something that maybe Rafa's going to look at and try and implement, is get Soderling changing direction a lot. When Soderling's on the run and he runs into a ground stroke, he can hit it pretty well. But if you get him moving and force him to stop and go back out, that's when his balance isn't quite there as much, and he's not set up and can't take a big cut quite as well. So I think that's going to be an effective strategy, maybe something Rafa can use should they meet in the final, is force Soderling to start and stop a lot. Again, this is very highly speculative at this point. We kind of run the risk of anticipating this Soderling Rafa final, and then it doesn't happen, and then somebody goes back and looks at this webcast and they're like, these guys don't know what they're talking about.
Well, you barely do.
I know.
You established that fairly well with your predictions for this tournament. I mean, you had Nadal.
I had Nadal,
but you also had Anna.
I had Anna. She hadn't lost a match since 2001. Just to be fair, guys, I'm making all of this stuff.
She hadn't lost a match since 2001.
Actually,
after coming back from what, a 20-month retirement or something like that. Yeah, okay.
I'm making it up as I go.
Yeah,
we actually have a stunt double when we go on court. It's not actually me hitting because I've never played before in my life.
It's true. The stunt double is actually me.
Yeah.
Okay. So are we gonna move on? We've talked about this.
Yeah, we've talked about. Yeah, we're getting hammered for Schiavone. In a way, let's just take everything we just said about the Federer Soderling match and talk about Wozniacki Schiavone, because Schiavone was hitting big, and she was hitting winners. She was moving the ball around real well.
Yeah.
Wozniacki was playing her consistent game, and Schiavone just out hit her.
Yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed in a way. I'm part Danish, so you want to see the Danes do well. At least I do. But a great win for Schiavone. I think this is the first time an Italian has made a semifinal of a major in the Open era. So congratulations to her. She obviously played great, but I really think there were a lot of similarities between that match and the Soderling Federer one, where one player was just hitting big and coming up with great shots, and when that happens, there's not much you can do. I mean, Wozniak was out there trying to grind it.
She has great technique. She hits very
great one-handed backhand,
and I guess she's a little older. I didn't consider her a serious contender, but then again, I know nothing about tennis.
Well, so. I mean, you wouldn't, if you're looking before the tournament, you're not going to say, oh, Schiavone, she's going to do well.
Right.
Not to say that she wouldn't make a run and get deep in the tournament, but this far, maybe not. I mean, there's, obviously you would put Serena, and up there would be the first people you would talk about. Maybe Wozniacki.
Serena, of course, is still alive.
Serena, I know. I mean, and you got
she plays Sam Stosur.
Sam Stosur tomorrow.
And then you have Jankovic, Shavdova, and then.
I think you got to say Serena is the odds-on favorite to win the tournament now. For a number of reasons, that serve, the return, and obviously great off the ground, and she's just an incredible competitor. So, the Dementieva-Schiavone match will be an interesting matchup there. I'm not sure. I have to give a little bit of thought about who I think should win that match.
We have some footage. Oh, we actually put some footage of Soderling, some Red 1 footage up on YouTube. I don't think we've made it live yet, though. We could go do that right now.
Well, let me take a quick look and see.
So that you guys can take a look, because we were Wells, of course, 2010, earlier this year, and we shot a whole bunch of footage of Robin Soderling, probably a couple hours worth of like normal speed stuff with sound. We also shot probably 2 hours worth of stuff in slow motion, and I think we have some of the slow motion stuff that I just put together.
We showed a little bit of.
See if we can pull some of that in. Give you guys an idea of what it looks
here.
like.
I mean, it's offline. We'll
click over to one of the clips and let's see if it's come through.
Indexed. So here's some red.
Let's clip over to the. We're looking at Robin Soderling here out at Indian Wells from this year, and that monstrous serve of his.
Let me skip forward and see if you widen this angle a little bit.
I think I do in some of the other clips. I believe I put 3 of them up there.
Okay.
So take a look at. Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of videos up there that are not yet publicly available, but will be shortly.
There we go.
Here's a nice wider view of Soderling's serve. Comes into a pinpoint stance there, and then unloads.
Yeah, I mean he's the serve today for him was just incredible. So he's obviously going to have to be hitting big serves against Berdych and certainly Rafa if it gets that far. He's going to want to take the initiative there. I think his serve actually, it's going to be tough if he's serving well for Rafa to get his teeth into a lot of Soderling service games, because Rafa's forehand return in particular is not his strongest suit. The backhand, I think, actually is a better shot for Rafa than in terms of the return than his forehand. So there's a number of, I think, problems should we get a Soderling Rafa final. A number of problems for Rafa in terms of the matchup, which makes it really interesting. I mean, I picked Rafa to win this tournament before the tournament started. I'll say it again. If Soderling plays as well as he did today, I think he's going to win the tournament.
How big of an if do you think that is? Give me a Vegas odds here
on you're pressing,
if Soderling can maintain that level for 2 more matches.
The issue to me is going to be the pressure. Can he handle the pressure in the final? I don't think he's going to have as much of a problem in the semis. I mean, I think he'd have more pressure on him against Federer than he would. I think there's a good chance he plays really well. I just think having beaten Nadal last year, and then he went through that final experience already where he said, he was a little bit nervous, but now that he's got one under his belt, he's in better shape. He might be criticized in Don't Flip, Will. Is that what somebody said?
No, but someone in the chat made the comment that it says AK1206 said in the chat that it seems like Soderling has brought that level of play all along. And that's absolutely true, but especially at a major where you're grinding points out and you have, it's a 5-set format. What if Berdych goes 5 sets? And then what if Soderling goes 5 sets? That's 10 more sets of tennis at a high level that he has to get through and perform at that level.
Yeah, he did tweak his knee, it looked like, which didn't obviously affect the result and didn't seem to affect his movement. So that's obviously a concern. If it goes 5 sets against Berdych, then it could be.
He's flexing his knee every once in a while during the Federer match.
I gotta say, I think Soderling's going to win probably relatively easily. I don't trust.
Against Nadal?
Not against Nadal, against Berdych.
Okay.
I don't trust Berdych in big moments. He has shown noticeable cracks mentally. And you want to talk about a guy who was really mentally tough, it was Soderling today. He was more mentally tough than Federer. I mean, you had one of the pivotal points of this game that we didn't talk about was the 3rd set, 5-all. There was a rain delay. Fed was up 35 serving. They came out after the rain delay. Federer missed 2 first serves, made 2 ground stroke errors, double faulted, and Soderling broke him. I mean, that was just some inconsistent play on Fed's part. And Soderling was just a rock. I mean, I believe he was 4 for 9 on break chances. Just came up with the big shots when he needed to. And some of those break chances, Federer had an ace. It wasn't like the point got started and Soderling made an unforced error. Federer just came up with the goods. But when the point actually got started, Soderling was converting. And again, you get Rafa in there. Rafa's not going to be able to win points with his serve. And Soderling, I think, is going to be able to attack those shots really effectively. I think this poses all sorts of matchup problems for Rafa. But again, it depends on Soderling's level of play. I do expect him to play well. I mean, I'd say, if I had to put odds on Soderling winning the tournament right now, I'd say 50-50.
Pretty good?
Yeah, I'd say 50-50. You're always conservative on your what?
You're always so conservative on your predictions.
I don't know if I'm conservative. I'm playing the odds, one of which is pick Federer, right? Obviously, the French Open's a little bit different, but my general strategy with the majors is if it's not the French Open, go with Federer, because it's obviously proven solid in the past, and Federer is certainly going to be the odds-on favorite at Wimbledon. So got to go with that. Let's get to.
What do you want to talk about next?
Let's see. Guys, please let us know in the chat if there's something in particular y'all want us to focus on. I mean, I think we've hit on a lot of the stuff from the big stuff from today. I'm gonna make some videos of Rafa Almagro, and maybe tempted to do that. Talk about Fed or Rafa Soderling, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited.
Upsets happen in majors, as I said.
I know, but I was just accused of being conservative, so maybe I should just go ahead and make a preview video, and then, a couple days, 5 days before the final, and just say this is going to happen. So,
right.
I think, I want to pull up a stat. Somebody's asking for,
okay, let's talk about real quick. Let's talk about the #1 ranking, because now that Federer is out in only the quarterfinals. By the way, Federer had a really great comment about the end of his semifinal streak, in appearing in so many consecutive semifinals at major. Someone asked him, "Are you sad that your semifinal streak is over?" And Fed said, "No, not really, because now I have a quarterfinal streak still going."
Yeah, that was pretty clever.
So, but he took it in stride.
I mean, I think my initial thoughts with Rafa and Almagro is that, Almagro is going to have to play big. I mean, he came up with some nice shots against Verdasco. That backhand, he was hitting some great shots. And Verdasco is a lefty, just like Rafa. I think the problem for Almagro is Rafa's ball is way higher in the strike zone. Yeah. It's going to be harder. The same thing with Federer. It's going to apply to Almagro. He's going to struggle with that one-handed backhand. So I would anticipate Rafa wins this, in 3 or 4 sets. Rafa killed Almagro, I think, in 08. I mean, that was a couple of years ago. But, Rafa is 6-0 against him, and it did go 3 sets at Madrid. Obviously, if past his prologue, recent history, then that might come into play. But it was Almagro won the first 4-6, and then Rafa steamrolled him after that 2-2, and that's at a higher altitude, Madrid, that Rafa does not like as much. So I don't see Almagro.
Apparently, Almagro said that he knows how to beat Nadal. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, well, I know how to beat Nadal, It doesn't mean I can do it, right?
Right.
Play like Soderling and
what was the other thing? Oh, right. So
hit
the other
aces
thing
at winners.
The current situation with the world #1 ranking now is in question, because Federer has a lot of points, a big points lead over Nadal.
But he loses a bunch of points.
Right.
Yeah,
now that he's out in the quarters, if Nadal wins the French Open, Nadal will be the new world #1. However, if he does not win, he will not be.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think there's a little bit more riding on the line there for Nadal. Maybe he's not thinking about that. He's probably just trying to get
I don't know how much these guys think about that. I mean, in a way, the ranking's going to take care of itself if you win. It's not like they're sitting there being like, man, I need to win this match so I can be number one.
Right.
They're thinking, I need to win this match so I can win the French Open.
Right.
So, you know, there's some discussion
By the
about...
way, we're giving away a free subscription to FYB Premium for this year's winner of the French Open. So perhaps Rafa will take some tennis lessons from this too.
I doubt it. I don't think he needs any help. But, yeah, I mean, you know, so you know, Rafa obviously has a good shot at becoming number one, but, you know, he might end up being number one at the end of the year now that you know, Fed has a ton of points to defend that he obviously lost with Madrid. Now the French Open, has to win Wimbledon to defend those, has to make it to the final of the U.S. Open. So, you know, there's a decent chance that Rafa ends the year at number one. We'll see. I mean, you know, I think those guys, again, it's important. Federer wants to break Sampras's streak, but I don't think it's you know, as big of a deal to these guys. Federer right now, I think, is more concerned with just stacking up the number of majors he's got, as is Rafa. So, you know, again, winning these big tournaments takes care of your ranking for you. So, I don't know. I don't know if those guys need to focus on it too much. And yeah, Rafa didn't even obviously play Wimbledon last year, so he's going to get a ton of points if he makes it. Just, you know, if he has a decent showing. So, you know, the numbers are kind of stacked against Fed. Let's get to this question.
Oh wow, we've gone.
This giveaway, yeah, we've run past a little bit. Okay, the question is.
Now this is for the autographed. We were doing Gonzo.
Fernando Gonzo in honor of Big Forehand. So autograph thing of Fernando Gonzalez. First person in the chat
to answer the question.
Who did? Who did?
Well, who did? Is not a great question. Probably not many people know the answer to that.
No, I know. Okay, so whoever gets that one, who did Serena Williams beat the last time she won the French Open? First person in chat wins it.
Who did Serena Williams beat the last time she won a French Open?
All right, so yep, already got it. Well, Henny got it. Good work.
You go.
Yeah, the reason I was like is because I started to say Venus, and that was the answer. I pointed out over the course of these webcasts I'm dyslexic, so there's a good answer. I was like oh man.
V or Serena.
Oops, that's not. V, yeah.
All right.
So,
well, some people in the chat know their stuff, guys. You got to buff up on your knowledge if you want to take home some of these prizes.
1 second.
All right. Well, so tomorrow, 5 p.m., right, is going to be another daily webcast here.
Yeah, let's take a quick peek in the chat. Yeah, it was Venus that did it. Wow, and there's like so many people talking. I can't track all this stuff. Yeah, there's a question by JM. Would analyzing Nadal's last match against Soderling
in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, provide you know, good perspective? That's an exhibition, so I don't really think so. I mean, Federer, you know, Soderling beat Federer, and I don't think that match had any bearing on this match today. I mean, in Exo's guys are working on stuff. You know, they might be hitting drop shots all the time, or they're just, you know, they're not dialed mentally. So I do not think that that matters as much. Unless I would say, you know, Soderling was just eating up their ground strokes, eating up, you know, or eating up Rafa's ground strokes. Oscar is asking me a question. That's not how it works, man. I ask the questions, and the other way around. So, no trivia for me.
Right.
Okay, let me. Okay, so yeah, let me. One final question, then we'll wrap this thing up. When do I see someone other than Rafa or Federer become number one? A long time, couple of years at least. Mm-hmm. You got two guys that are I think just on a larger,
on a higher level,
on a higher, yeah, just you know, you have a guy like Soderling who can certainly do some damage, but we still haven't seen the thing about Federer and Rafa that sets them apart. So when they're not injured, they are extremely consistent.
Yeah.
And someone like Soderling going out in the first round of the Aussie Open,
right,
not consistent.
Yeah.
That's not going to get it done. So
well, it's not that it won't get it done and that he can't beat those caliber
it's not going to get it done from a number one
world ranking.
Yeah, it's not going to get it done from a I want to be number one in the world ranking perspective. Murray, I don't see Murray doing it anytime soon. He doesn't have the offensive
Didn't Brad
game.
Gilbert say he thought that Murray was going to be a Grand Slam winner?
Well, I think he is too. I mean, the guy's young and he's got a big game, but he doesn't have the offense yet.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the shots. He just chooses not to use them.
Okay.
So Novak, no, he doesn't. His serve is a mess right now. So you got guys who have either shot selection issues like Murray, maybe some mental issues, or maybe some technical issues like Djokovic.
Yeah.
And then you have guys that are inconsistent like Soderling. You have Del Potro, who's got number one in the world talent, but he's injured. So
right.
I don't see it. I don't see it happening in the next year or two.
Yeah.
I think.
So you're looking at, and so in a nutshell, what you're saying is what makes current world number one or world number two is the combination, the package of consistency, technique, staying healthy, and the mental game and shot selection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And absent, if you don't have all five of those things, you're not going to upset Rafa or Roger from those rankings.
Yeah, I mean, it's being number one is not just about how big can I serve, how big are my ground strokes. It's about consistency.
I think we've seen that with Andy Roddick.
Yeah,
although he was number one.
I think he briefly,
way back in the day.
But that was sort of the lull between Sampras, Agassi heyday and Federer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just being number one requires so much more than just playing a good tournament, and that's really what made Federer's streak of 23 Grand Slam semis so exceptional. I mean, that's like literally just to a degree luck in the sense that he didn't trip down his staircase and twist an ankle
and not only that many semifinals, but also that many victories. I mean, 16 victories.
Yeah, 16 Grand Slams.
And keep in mind that I think one of the comments Federer made was that in order to win a Grand Slam, you have to beat 3
top 10
players consistently, and he's done that 16 times now.
Yeah.
Which I think
you're absolutely
tells you he's number one.
You're absolutely right. So yeah, I don't see any guys doing it anytime soon. So who might it might be a guy we've never heard of yet coming in and dethroning these Federer and Rafa, because what I've seen out of the current crop, Djokovic, Murray, and these guys, is they're certainly talented players, but I think
they would be great players in any other era that didn't involve Federer or Nadal.
Yeah, but I think when you have a guy like Federer or Rafa, you kind of know the first few times you see them. Early on, there's some indication this guy's going to be great.
Yeah.
And watching Djokovic, watching Murray, I don't get that sort of gut feeling. These guys are just exceptional talents.
Yeah.
So they're certainly Grand Slam. They're certainly going to win Grand Slams, in my opinion. Murray, Soderling, and Soderling I'm not as sure about. Although, if he continues his level of play, I think he wins. Got a good shot at winning the French. But yeah, I haven't just had that sort of like wow factor seeing these guys play, and I think that is an element too that sort of factors into dethroning what will probably go down. I mean, Federer probably greatest in my opinion. Rafa could end up being one of the greatest players ever as well. Certainly, I think the greatest clay court player at this point. So,
before we stretch this out to an hour, our half-hour-long broadcast here, let's wrap it up, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m. If you care to tune in.
5 o'clock tomorrow. 5 o'clock. What's
Bring
tomorrow?
your questions.
Wednesday?
Email them ahead of time.
Tomorrow Wednesday. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know how to serve.
Yeah. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 o'clock. Sunday morning, 9 a.m. We'll probably start a little bit early, actually. We'll have Ian Westerman of EssentialTennis.com back with us to be helping out with the commentary there. And that's, if we get the Soderling Rafa final, that could be quite a match. So I am obviously looking forward to that one. Please leave us your thoughts in the comments. Don't worry. Adam will be lurking somewhere. We'll have Adam around. People are like, no, lurking.
I sound like an internet predator or something.
Well, he'll be lurking. He will be.
Don't worry, guys. I'll be lurking somewhere around the webcast.
He'll be somewhere. We'll work him there.
All right. Fantastic.
Well, with that in mind, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
All right. Bye, guys.